For 30 years, one Japanese automaker quietly altered crash tests on more than 64 models, falsifying results and selling cars that could fail in real-world collisions. When the truth surfaced, 174 rig tests going back to 1989, factories stopped, customers were stranded, and even Toyota's reputation took a hit. How did this deception last so long, and what finally brought it all crashing down? An independent committee delivered its findings on December 20th, 2023. Their investigation uncovered a staggering 174 separate irregularities in safety and certification processes. These were not isolated glitches or mistakes. They spanned 64 different vehicle models, including cars sold under the Daihatsu, Toyota, Mazda, and Subaru brands. The earliest case dated all the way back to 1989. Over 3 decades, the pattern only grew. The committee's report catalogued everything: 143 falsified statements, 28 instances where test cars were physically modified just to pass inspections, and 3 cases of outright data manipulation. The scope reached across domestic and export markets, affecting vehicles from Japan to Southeast Asia and Latin America. The numbers did not just tell a story of technical cheating, they revealed a system built on deception, scaled up year after year. By late 2023, the evidence was undeniable. What started as a single audit in Thailand led to a full-scale review, exposing the longest-running pattern of certification fraud in Japan's automotive history. These headline numbers set the stage for the next question: how did the cheating actually work? In the world of automotive safety, small changes can mean the difference between life and death. At Daihatsu, engineers made those changes not to improve safety, but to hide flaws. During side impact tests, the inside lining of the front seat door often shattered into sharp fragments, turning a crash into a potential hazard for anyone inside. But instead of redesigning the door for real-world protection, test cars received a hidden modification. Engineers cut a precise notch into the door lining, just enough to keep the plastic from breaking during the official crash test. This notch never appeared in the vehicles that reached customers. Only the test cars were altered, allowing Daihatsu to pass inspections with paperwork that said nothing about the trick. Another technique involved the airbags, a critical safety feature designed to deploy in milliseconds during a collision. For the certification tests, engineers swapped out the standard airbag control unit for a special version. This test-only electronic control unit triggered the airbags on a fixed timer, guaranteeing a flawless deployment at the exact moment required by the test protocol. In actual production models, the airbag's deployment depended on real-world sensors and unpredictable crash forces, conditions that might not deliver the same result. Both tactics were detailed in the independent committee's December 2023 report. They weren't accidents or oversights. They were systematic, calculated choices made over years. Each modification was invisible to the customer, but clear to the engineers who prepared the test vehicles. These were not isolated shortcuts, but part of a routine that defined Daihatsu's approach to passing safety tests for more than 3 decades. The order came down in late December 2023. Every assembly line at Daihatsu's 4 Japanese factories fell silent. Nearly 9,000 workers, including machinists, inspectors, and parts handlers, were told to stand by. Their routines upended overnight. Trucks that once rolled out by the hundreds each day now sat unfinished, gathering dust on the factory floor. For the first time in company history, Daihatsu halted all vehicle shipments, not just in Japan, but around the world. The shutdown was immediate and absolute. Thousands of customers, many of them small business owners, found their plans thrown into chaos. Delivery dates for popular K-trucks and microvans evaporated. In rural towns, shopkeepers who relied on these compact workhorses for deliveries and daily business faced weeks, sometimes months of uncertainty. Some had already paid deposits, expecting their vehicles before the new year. Now, there were no answers, only apologies and delays. The backlog grew with each passing day. At Daihatsu's Osaka headquarters, phones rang with questions from anxious buyers. Dealers struggled to explain the situation, caught between frustrated customers and a company unable to promise when production would resume. The impact rippled outward, stalling suppliers and leaving entire communities in limbo. In the span of a week, a steady hum of industry had given way to a silence that stretched from the factory gates to city streets, exposing just how quickly trust and business can unravel when the assembly lines stop. News of the shutdown landed like a shockwave, not just for Daihatsu, but across the entire Toyota group. Within days, Japan's Transport Ministry issued its first public statements, confirming investigations would expand beyond Daihatsu to include other automakers. The freeze on shipments did not just halt Daihatsu-branded models. Production of the Toyota Townace, Rumi, and Pixies, all designed and built by Daihatsu, stopped as well. Dealers pulled these vehicles from their lots. Orders were cancelled or delayed indefinitely. The ripple effects reached Toyota's own supply chain, forcing an industry giant to reckon with the fallout from its smallest subsidiary. The scale of the deception demanded a response from the very top. Cameras rolled as Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda stepped in front of a crowded press room. His apology was direct and unsparing. He acknowledged the damage to Toyota's reputation for quality and craftsmanship, values that had defined the company for generations. He said they take this very seriously, and he promised a thorough review of all group certification processes. For a company that built its name on the promise of monozukuri, manufacturing excellence, this was a public reckoning. Regulators moved quickly, launching wider audits across Japan's automotive sector. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism began scrutinizing certification records from dozens of manufacturers, signaling that the scandal had exposed vulnerabilities far beyond a single company. The story was no longer just about Daihatsu's mistakes. It had become a test of trust for the entire Japanese auto industry, and a warning that shortcuts in safety could threaten the foundations of even the most respected brands. Inside Daihatsu's engineering offices, deadlines ruled everything. Development cycles that once stretched 3 or 4 years were squeezed down to 30 months or less. The pressure to launch new models faster than competitors became relentless, leaving little room for mistakes or second chances. Engineers knew that a failed safety test did not just mean more work, it meant risking public embarrassment and internal reprimand. According to the independent committee's interviews, frontline employees described a climate where reporting problems felt impossible. One anonymized engineer recalled that they could not bring up a failed test. If they did, they would be told to fix it quietly or risk their job. The expectation was clear: pass certification on the first try, no matter what. In this environment, silence became a survival strategy. Safety experts reviewing the case later noted that when speed and secrecy take priority, even routine checks become dangerous. The compressed timelines and culture of fear did not just encourage shortcuts, they made them inevitable, turning ethical boundaries into obstacles to be worked around rather than standards to be upheld. Daihatsu's leadership crisis reached its breaking point in early 2024. Both the president and the chairman resigned in the wake of the investigation, clearing the way for sweeping changes at the top. Toyota, determined to prevent any repeat of the scandal, installed Masahiro Inoue, as Daihatsu's new president. Inoue arrived with a clear mandate to restore credibility and enforce strict oversight. Daihatsu's prized independence vanished overnight. Toyota dissolved the internal compact car company structure, ending the autonomy that once allowed Daihatsu to chart its own course. From that point forward, every step of development and certification would answer directly to Toyota's central command. Production lines, which had stood idle for months, began to restart in mid-2024. By early 2026, Daihatsu was building cars again, but only under the watchful eye of its parent company. The reforms were not just symbolic. They signaled that trust, once broken, would be rebuilt only through direct control and transparent governance. Trust, once fractured, does not rebuild with an apology. It demands vigilance. Even now, regulators and drivers worldwide watch for the next shortcut masked as efficiency. In an industry built on confidence, every hidden flaw risks more than reputation. The question is, who is watching the gatekeepers now?